Now that you guys know the background and history of crypto and Bitcoin, how exactly do you buy and sell these different cryptos? Well, there are two main platforms in order to do this. You first have centralized exchanges called CEXs, and then you have decentralized exchanges called DEXs. And these are platforms that allow you to buy, sell, and trade these different cryptos. Now, centralized exchanges are what they sound like. They are controlled by a centralized authority, and they actually have custody of all of your different assets, as well as not having all of the tokens available on their platform. So think of things like Binance, Coinbase, Bybit, Kraken. These are centralized authorities that are having control and facilitating all of these different trades. You then have decentralized exchanges, which are not controlled by anyone, but completely run off of smart contracts, which I brought up in a previous video. What's interesting about these decentralized exchanges is that individuals like yourself are the ones that have to provide liquidity for these different trades. So if you want to trade USDC for Ethereum, for example, there have to be people that are willing to provide the liquidity for that for these trades to happen. And I'll be going over liquidity in a later video. And one of the nice things about DEXs is this is where you're going to be able to buy any token out there before they actually get listed on centralized exchanges. In this particular video, I'm going to go over centralized exchanges because that's the easiest way to get started. And in a future video, I'll cover how to operate on DEXs. Now, what are some of the best centralized exchanges to use? Well, if you're in the United States, the number one centralized exchange is Coinbase, and this is personally what I would recommend you using. They also have Binance.us, we have Kraken, Gemini, Crypto.com, and Robinhood is constantly trying to add more cryptos, but they're running into regulatory problems. And this is what you'll see with a lot of centralized exchanges and just US policy in general against crypto, is that it's actually very hard to have this onboard and offboard of fiat money. And one thing that you guys have to know is that in order to actually onboard your fiat or onboard your US dollars, you are going to have to go through some sort of centralized exchange. You can't do this on a decentralized exchange. And with these centralized exchanges, you are going to have to KYC, know your customer, where they're going to have to get your ID and verify your identity. It's really annoying in the US right now because a lot of these centralized exchanges are getting lawsuits, are getting shut down. So it's becoming harder and harder to bring on your money and take off your money. If you're outside of the US, I highly recommend Binance, but there's also top centralized exchanges out there such as Bitfinex, you have OKX, Kraken, KuCoin, Huobi, as well as Bybit. Before I show you guys how to swap on a centralized exchange, I wanted to give you guys a couple more notes here. When you're making trades, you are swapping between different pairs. So for example, there might be a pair with US dollars and then whatever other X crypto. So for example, there's a pair between US dollars and Ethereum, US dollars and Bitcoin, US dollars and USDC. There are all of these different pairs out there. So if I have US dollars, I can now buy something like Ethereum, and then I can sell my Ethereum for something like US dollars. It also works for crypto. So I can have X crypto, let's say Ethereum, and I can swap to Y crypto, let's say USDC. So in order for me to buy Ethereum, there might only be a couple different pairs out there, and I might have to swap X crypto over into Y crypto, and then now with Y crypto, I can buy Z crypto. So that's just something that you need to be aware of. Note that there are a limited amount of pairs, and a lot of times you're going to need a stable coin, which is always $1 US in order to do these different trading pairs. So USDT as well as USDC are the two biggest stable coins out there, and a lot of times you might need USDC or USDT in order to swap between these different pairs. Another thing to note about centralized exchanges is they don't have every token out there. They're actually missing a lot of tokens. They only have some of the top tokens. All of these other ones first start off on decentralized exchanges. As another two safety tips, always pay attention when you're withdrawing or depositing onto a centralized exchange. Each coin has its own version on different blockchains. So whenever you're withdrawing or depositing, it's going to ask what chain this coin is coming from. And you need to make sure it's the correct chain, which I'll go over a little bit later in this video, as well as future videos. The other safety tip is always have the highest level of security when it comes to these centralized exchanges. I'm talking talking about dual factor authentication. I'm talking about IP address whitelisting. I'm talking about anti-email phishing. Do whatever you can to make sure that your account doesn't get exploited, because if it gets exploited, you're shit out of luck. Now that all that's out of the way, I'm going to show you guys how to actually operate on something like Coinbase. For every single centralized exchange, you're going to have to make an account and you're going to have to verify your identity. They make this pretty easy where you just submit your ID. Maybe you need to submit some other documents. And then once you're KYC'd, you're going to be able to connect your bank account. To get started, if you own absolutely no crypto, first make your account and then link your bank account. You'll then be able to hit deposit cash, for example, where you'll be able to directly deposit US dollars over into your Coinbase account. When it comes to withdrawing crypto back into your bank account, you are going to need to deposit that crypto into some sort of centralized exchange. You're going to have to sell that crypto back into US dollars. And then at that point, that's when you can withdraw your cash back to your bank account. So be aware that even though you can do all these different trades on decentralized exchanges, you're not going to be able to onboard fiat or offboard fiat without having some sort of KYC'd centralized exchange such as Coinbase. Once you have money in your account, you can go to the trade section, and this is where you can buy and sell different currencies. If you notice on Coinbase, you can actually have your bank account already linked, and this is where you can buy and sell Bitcoin directly without you needing to first deposit USD. When you go to trade, you'll start to see the different pairs. If I click that I want to buy Bitcoin, I have a few different options of how to actually do this. First, I have my bank account. I can also have USD, which I can deposit into my account without going directly through Wells Fargo. I can then use USDC, which is the stable coin that I was saying. Sometimes you need a stable coin in order to make these different swaps. And then you can also do a wire transfer from your account. In this situation, I don't want to deposit more money from my bank account or use my bank account, but instead I want to buy using USDC. One thing I want to say is that Coinbase looks very simplified, but on other exchanges, it's a lot easier to actually see which different pairs are available for a certain token. Right now, I don't have any USDC, so I can't actually buy this Bitcoin. So let me look at my assets to see what I actually have. Over here, I can notice that I have some Ethereum right now, or about $474 worth of Ethereum. So if I click on Ethereum, I can now buy or sell Ethereum. In this situation, I want to sell some of my Ethereum over into USDC. Now, what you'll notice is this is selling into this USDC coin already because that is one of the pairs. If I click on it, I see that the only two pairs on Coinbase for Ethereum are either USDC or you have USD, which I can sell into USD and then I can withdraw back to my bank account if I wanted to do so. In this situation, I want to sell my Ethereum. Let's say I want to sell $100 worth of Ethereum and I want this to go into the USDC token. I'm now going to have around a $3.74 fee on Coinbase, and Coinbase is actually pretty expensive to transact on. If you're someone that's transacting a lot, you can get their Coinbase One, which is like a subscription of $35 a month, something like that, but then they get rid of the fees. Once I do this, I can sell that cryptocurrency and I'm pretty much immediately going to get my USDC from this Ethereum. Now that I have this USDC, I can go back to this trading tab and now I can buy Bitcoin with this USDC. So if I hit this buy button, I can say, hey, I want to pay for it using my USDC. I can say I want to buy the max amount of Bitcoin. Once again, I hit preview order. I'm going to have another Coinbase fee. I hit buy now, and now I'm going to own this Bitcoin. So as you notice, guys, with these swaps, there's always different pairs. In this situation with both Bitcoin and Ethereum, the only options they gave me was USDC or USD. So if I wanted to change Bitcoin to Ethereum, I couldn't do that. There wasn't a pair for this. So I first had to go from that Ethereum over into USDC, and then that USDC over into Bitcoin. This is pretty much how these different swaps work. There's usually a lot more tools that these different centralized exchanges give, especially a platform like Binance, for example, but this is how you do these basic swaps. Now, let's say I wanted to withdraw this currency to one of my own wallets so I don't hold it on my own centralized exchange, where if there's some sort of collapse or mismanagement like FTX, I simply lose all of my money. I'd rather have that custody myself rather than a centralized exchange. All I would do in this situation is I would hit transfer. I would say, hey, I want to send my crypto out. I can say, hey, I want to send my Ethereum. I want to send a total of $100 worth of my Ethereum. And this is where it's going to ask what blockchain that I want to do this on. Now, it's very important in this situation that you're picking the right blockchain. If you send to a wallet and you sent using the wrong blockchain, now all of a sudden that money is going to be lost. Now, it's even more important to do this when you're depositing into Coinbase or a centralized exchange. If you're depositing into a separate wallet, such as Rabby, for example, which I'll get into in a later video, a lot of times it's the same wallet for all of these different chains, but you still want to make sure that you're on the right blockchain if you wanted to interact with that chain. So for example, when it comes to this Ethereum, I can send that Ethereum to the Ethereum chain. I can send it to the Base chain. I can send it to Arbitrum, AVAX, Optimism, Polygon. Sometimes they won't have the option you want, and that's when you're going to have to bridge, and this is a whole other video, like I said. But for example, let's say I want to send it to Ethereum. This is where now I would paste that Ethereum address, and then once this transaction is confirmed, I'll now have it in my own wallet rather than Coinbase. Same exact thing happens if you want to receive crypto. I would say, hey, I want to receive Ethereum. I would make sure I'm receiving it on the right chain. If my Ethereum is on the Ethereum chain, I would select Ethereum, and now it gives me an address where I can deposit that Ethereum and get it into my account. That pretty much wraps up everything you need to know on how to do some basic swaps as well as deposits and withdrawals on centralized exchanges.